Hola, hola! My name is Zulean and welcome to Una Preguntita. As a Texas Rican, my life has been anything but traditional. I went from studying engineering to farming in Hawaii to building a career in nonprofits before diving into entrepreneurship. Every twist and turn taught me something new. But let's be real, life doesn't come with a manual. In Una Preguntita, we always begin con una pregunta, a question. So dime, have you ever felt like you're thriving in one area of your life while Googling how to be a functioning adult for the rest of it at 2 a.m.? Yeah, been there too. Every week, you and I are diving into the stuff nobody really teaches us. How to actually understand ourselves, build connections that matter, and handle those awkward conversations that keep us up at night. Whether you're figuring out workplace dynamics or trying to level up your emotional intelligence game, we're getting into it. I'm bringing you big questions, tools, and strategies for you to build the life and career you want. No filtered perfection, just honest conversations and practical ways to grow into your unapologetic self. Grab tu cafecito, get comfy, and let's figure this out together. Esto es Una Preguntita, where curiosity and understanding leads to action. Vamos! Okay, amigui. This week's preguntita is, when does progress actually happen? Yeah, I know, a little broad, but stick with me here. You know that moment when you've put in all the work, done all of the things, but for some reason you get side eyes from others? Or maybe you got that promotion, but instead of feeling accomplished, you feel overwhelmed and like your team doesn't have your back or they're not doing the work. I used to think progress happened when I worked hard, when I checked every box, solved every problem myself, made sure everything was perfect. But then, out of a totally different conversation, an old friend actually said, progress is made as soon as trust is created. Boom. There was a light bulb moment that went off my head. I'm going to say it again. Progress is made as soon as trust is created. Let's break it down today. Why does trust change everything? Let me take you back to my first managerial role. Why did I get this position? Because I was the go-to person, the gets it all done person, the one who could fix anything, could manage anything, and could handle anything. Spreadsheets, done. Crisis, handled. Team project, I'll just do it myself. But here's the thing. Being great at work didn't mean I knew how to lead. On many mornings, I was forcing myself out of bed and realized I had lost my spark. I was exhausted, the team was frustrated, and nothing felt like it was actually improving. I had become the bottleneck. The harder I worked, the less we progressed. And that's when I realized I was stuck in Stephen Karpman's drama triangle. The drama triangle is made up of 3 parts. Number 1, you might have a victim. Number 2, you might have a rescuer. And number 3, you might have a persecutor. Where was I in Karpman's drama triangle? Yo, Zulean Cruz, was bouncing between the 3 roles. Some days I would start it off as the victim and I would think, nobody could do it just like me. So I overworked myself, right? By 11, I might be in the rescuer mode. I have to fix this. End result, I micromanaged. By 3 p.m., I would probably be in the persecutor's role. Why can't they just get it right? So I ended up criticizing. Any of these roles ring a bell to you? Don't worry, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to tell you this perspective shift that really helped me understand how to move into my leadership role. I wish I could remember who exactly said it. It was, of course, on some podcast. Growing into a leadership role is like moving from a factory floor up 5 steps to a balcony. I was placed into a leadership role because I was great at the ground level work. But instead of stepping up those 5 steps to the balcony, the place where I could actually see the whole operation, I kept running back down the stairs to fix things myself. And because I was doing that, I wasn't leading. At this point, I was doing the work of the factory floor plus my new work. It was no fun to say the least. I had to ask myself, when does progress actually happen? When I push harder, or is it when I build trust? You can guess it for yourself. It's when you build trust. Here's the real reason progress stalls. We don't trust enough to let go. I'm going to say that again. We don't trust enough to let go, and then progress is stalled. We lead back into that drama triangle. There were 3 rules. Number 1 is the victim. Nobody can do it like me. This mindset feels like responsibility, but it's really fear. Fear of losing control, fear of failure, fear of trusting somebody else. Number 2, the rescuer. This is all about micromanager energy all the way around. You step up, right? You think you're going in to help, but really you're keeping your team dependent on you. It feels like leadership, but it's just control in disguise. Number 3, you get the persecutor. The quickest way to get here is when you're stressed or exhausted from taking over, right? You become the boss you never actually wanted to be. You become critical, you become frustrated, you become impossible to please because you're exhausted. Honestly, cycling through these 3 roles keeps us busy, but not actually moving forward. So how do we break out of them? The moment we stop controlling and start trusting, that's when real progress happens. So let's go back to that analogy of the factory. How do we climb those 5 steps and stay there without going back down the 5 steps to do the work, to go back up and climb back up, right? How do we get the job done without climbing back down those steps? Number 1, número 1, here we go. Trade control for curiosity. Instead of assuming people will fail without you, start asking, how would you approach this so-and-so? This shift of ownership actually invites problem solving and invites others to take responsibility. Número 2, switch doing for listening. You're swapping it out. It is a game changer. I'm going to list a book here down below in the show notes, but Michael Bungay Stainier's book, The Coaching Habit, teaches, instead of jumping in, start by asking, what's the real challenge for you here? Then, after they've answered, you're not jumping in to fix anything yet. After they've answered, segue into, how can I help? What do you need from me? It stops the endless rambling and forces people to really define what they need. If you want some help in the area of clear communication, I'd suggest you listen to my previous episode, Get to the Point, How to Communicate Clearly and Avoid Confusion, which I'm also linking below in the show notes. Okay, so we went over step number 1, trade control for curiosity. Step number 2, switch the doing for listening. And now step número 3, create space for growth. Let your team make mistakes. Yes, hard, but progress doesn't happen without risk. I am loading you on links today, but if you want a template for running one-on-ones, I've got you. In the show notes below, I've left you with my running plan template. It actually helps you walk through these questions you should be asking versus answering what you want to give the other person in those one-on-one check-ins with your team. Remember, leadership isn't about fixing every problem. It's about guiding people to fix things themselves. Okay, so let's go back to the 3 steps we outlined. Número 1, you're trading control for curiosity. To a team member, ask, how would you approach this? Number 2, switch the doing for listening. What's the real challenge for you here? Once they answer, then go ahead and ask, what do you need from me? Número 3, create space for growth. What does this mean for you? It means take a beat, take a breather, sit back, and see what unfolds. Create space for growth. Let's wrap up this preguntita. When does progress actually happen? When trust is created. Trust isn't about being perfect. It's about creating space for growth. Somebody allowed you to climb the 5 steps up to the balcony. They gave you that space for growth. Now you have to figure out a way in which you can facilitate the work from a different angle. You are now facilitating the growth of others coming after you. Remember, trust isn't about being perfect. It's about creating space for growth. I want you to remember sticking to a role in the drama triangle, either becoming the victim, the rescuer, the persecutor, keeps us stuck in a toxic pattern. Real leadership happens when we step back and we let others step up. And progress? Progress starts with questions, not with answers. Here's your challenge for you today. Notice which drama triangle role you might be playing. Remember, the 3 are, I'm going to repeat it again. Number 1 is the victim. Number 2 is the rescuer. And number 3 is the persecutor. Which do you naturally kind of fall into? Then ask yourself, what would building trust look like instead? What should I do instead in order to build trust within the team and help others grow?
Zulean. Zuli. ¿Qué aprendiste esta semana?
So what did you learn today?
All right, Theo and Mommy. So this week, what I learned was I needed to trust. A bit personal here, but the other day I was finding myself in a space where I was frustrated with myself and I wasn't where I wanted to be in my life, right? The little intro of like, you have it all figured out in one side of the world, in one side of your life, but for the rest of it, you don't, and you're Googling, right? How to be an adult. So I was in that space. And I was like, okay, I probably just need to sit down and pray and meditate and kind of just put it out there in the world, like looking for clues or guidance. And the idea of trust popped into my head. Of course, the idea of trust popped into my head. And with my ADHD brain, I ended up starting to make all these great connections about how I can make trust a podcast and what it needs to look like in the workforce and boom, 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 etc. I was like, wait. Okay, great. So I have a whole idea for a podcast, but I didn't actually get a message of what I needed for my own life. And then it hit me. Oh, trust was the lesson I was supposed to take away here. I am supposed to trust the process. I am supposed to trust where I am right now is where I need to be right now. And what I want will come. I just need to trust. And it was so weird. All of a sudden, I felt like una paz just fall over me. I felt a peace that I can't quite explain in words, except for kind of just saying it felt like a warm hug or like a warm blanket was just draped over. Todo pasa por una razón, right? Everything happens for a reason. Whether you're spiritual or not, there's a trust you have to have that you're part of something bigger than yourself. And if you're at that point in life where you're frustrated in yourself or you want to be at a certain stage and you're not, remember to breathe. Everything will come out okay. Just you wait. I'm sending you un abrazote, amigui. See you in the next one. If you enjoyed this podcast just as much as I enjoyed creating it for you, please share it, rate it, and write a review. What did you take away from today? I'm sending you un huge abrazo y nos vemos en la próxima.